Now you're probably wondering why I've got this jacket on. I'll tell you why. It's winter here in New Zealand now, it's getting cold, and much like most people out there, I don't really like being left out in the cold. And here's a fun fact, your email subscribers don't like being left out in the cold either. Now, when we talk about email marketing, one thing that's always drilled into business owners' minds is that you shouldn't email too much. Pretty much most B2B businesses and many startups subscribe to this ideology. Obviously, it's a little bit different with things like e-commerce, online retail. A lot of those companies are so transactional, they just blast you with emails day after day after day, sometimes multiple times a day. I'm sure we're all subscribed to companies that do that. But for most businesses, email marketing tends to be something where you'll often err on the side of sort of emailing too infrequently. And that can be a really big problem because what can happen is by leaving people out in the cold and not communicating with them very often, when you actually do get around to sending an email to your database, people may well have forgotten who you are, especially if your business is not one that has sort of everyday prominence or presence in their lives. So we can all think of big companies that you can't drive down the road without seeing, signs from McDonald's or BP or those kinds of companies. So if they send you an email, chances are you've already seen them that day. You always remember who they are. You always remember where they are. It's one of those things of sort of constant brand recognition. But for many B2B companies, for a lot of startups, it really is very, very different. Your audience tends to only know about you at the times they want to know about you or at the times that you're actually actively getting yourself in front of them. So where this problem tends to arise frequently in my experience is you'll collect a bunch of email addresses through various mediums, you'll put them on your mailing platform like MailChimp or ActiveCampaign or something like that, and then they just sit there gathering dust. And then all of a sudden Christmas time rolls around, as it seems to happen all the time at Christmas time, and you go, oh, whoops, we haven't spoken to these guys all year, we better send out a Christmas greeting or something like that. And then you send out an email and you get a whole bunch of unsubscribes and you don't really get much value from it. And I think a big part of the reason for this is that you simply have not maintained that communication to a high enough standard. Now, what I'm not saying is that you should go out there and spam your database with emails all day, every day. But allowing your database to become too dormant and basically communicating with them too infrequently also has a very detrimental effect. So it's basically a game of not wanting to be on either end of the spectrum. What you want to do is sit in the middle. You want to find that Goldilocks spot of, not emailing so much that you annoy people, but not emailing so infrequently that when they do receive an email in their inbox, they go, who are these guys in the first place? I'm going to hit unsubscribe because I don't remember them. A classic example is the business that collects a whole load of email addresses at, say, a trade show and then doesn't get around to emailing them for 2 or 3 months after. Well, by the time that 2 or 3 months has elapsed, a whole load of people you spoke to will have gone cold and they probably won't be interested anymore. So it's about being timely. Just think about it like sales follow-up. If someone calls your office or sends you an inquiry, you probably endeavour to get back to them pretty quickly. And it should be the same thing with your email marketing as well. You want to be timely, you just don't want to be too aggressive and too in people's faces. So as far as the optimum cadence for doing this goes, well, once again, that's so dependent on your industry, what you're selling, who your target market is, all those kinds of things. If you're a e-commerce business, people are going to expect to hear from you more often. You're going to have lots of deals to talk about and all those kinds of things. But for B2B companies, you generally don't do a lot of deal-driven activity. You might clear some ranges or you might have certain promotions on, but it's nothing like your mainstream big box retail brands that you get bombarded with messaging all day long. So what you want to do is start experimenting with how frequently you send emails and try and find that sweet spot. Certainly, businesses that are out there emailing once a year or twice a year or maybe even just quarterly, I don't think it's enough. My experience tends to be that if you do this, you get too many people who you slip from the back of their mind, and then when you do send that email, it's not as effective. But I'm interested to hear as well what you've found to be an effective cadence for your business. Do you email weekly or bi-weekly or monthly, or maybe you email less frequently, but you really do think that's the most effective method? So drop a comment under this video. Let me know what you do, whether you think it's working well or not, and we'll start that conversation. But the key message is just that you should not collect a whole load of emails, sit on them for a year. I mean, I've seen lists that people have tried to resurrect after 2 or 3 years of not contacting them. And when you do that, believe you me, that it does not work very well. So just try to keep that frequency up a little bit more and make sure that people don't have the chance to forget about you, but also don't get annoyed by you doing too much. So if you found that helpful, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow what I'm doing on social media, especially LinkedIn. And yeah, like I said, leave a comment in the video description if you want to share your experience with email marketing. If you need any advice, I'm more than happy to help out as well. And as always, you can email me on info@samfrost.co.nz at any time and I will help you out. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.